that I'm just talking to myself and nobody's listening. So please let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, can everybody please keep their fingers crossed that my little brother, I have a baby brother Ian. Now lots of you know that my little brother Richard unfortunately passed away from cot death, and then many years later my mum and dad had another baby Ian, and he's much younger than me, and him and his wife are due their first baby. I think I was about 16 when he was born, and they're due their first baby. They're in Ireland and the baby was due at the weekend, so fingers crossed that they're in labour at the moment, even though we haven't heard anything, but I'm hoping that they have their baby soon. So fingers crossed they have an easy birth and that their baby is going to come very soon, because I don't want to wait any longer. It's so sad being on the other side of the world though. I feel like I'm going to miss out. So anyway, back to sleep regression. Why do Save Our Sleep babies not suffer from sleep regression? Well, I think you need to understand what sleep regression is and how it happens and why it happens to understand why the Save Our Sleep babies don't seem to go through sleep regression. So when a baby is born, you can put them down anywhere, and if they are well fed and warm, they will sleep. So you can rock your baby to sleep, pat them to sleep, let them suck on a dummy, pop them down to bed, and they will stay asleep. But at 8 weeks old, a baby will suddenly start sleeping in daytime sleep cycles. So if you're rocking, patting, or helping your baby go to sleep, when they're 8 weeks old, you'll become unstuck, because this baby will suddenly start waking up at daytime sleep cycles. Now, for the first few weeks, you might think it's okay. You might think, oh, we're just having a bad sleep day. Oh, we're just having another bad sleep day. But then, by a few weeks later, you realise this is a sleep problem, and you might call it the 8-week sleep regression. But if you have actually taught your baby to put themselves to sleep, now you don't actually need to teach them by doing controlled crying or cry it out or anything like that. You just need to make sure from day one that you pretty much follow a routine so that your baby feels safe and secure. And then when your baby is well fed, and if they're warm enough, you put them down for their sleep somewhere safe, and your baby will just start to learn to put themselves to sleep, because they're so tired after a feed when they're first born, they'll just naturally drift off to sleep. If you put them down when they're well fed and they're warm enough and their nappy's been changed and everything, if there's no problems. So you don't need to teach them. You just use the routine and they put themselves to sleep. However, if you don't do this, you rock them to sleep, you pat them to sleep, you use a dummy, they're not warm enough, any of these things, then when you put your baby down at 8 weeks, they will wake up after the sleep cycle. So this baby can't put sleep cycles together. Now at 4 months, we have what lots of people call sleep regression. And why do the Save Our Sleep babies not go through it? Because these babies know how to put themselves to sleep, and they know how to stay asleep. They know how to get from one sleep cycle to the next. So what happens with other babies out there who are not on a routine and can't put their sleep cycles together? Now please remember, say where you're tuned in from, because as far as I can work out, I'm not talking to anyone, and I'll stop talking if people aren't saying where they are or giving a little nudge or a thumbs up or a smiley face or an angry face or anything, so that I know that you're listening. Because with nothing coming up, it's going to mean that I'm going to cut and stop talking. So there is some people now putting the thumbs up, which is great. And can you also say where you're tuned in from? We've got Kylie from Melbourne, but where's anyone else tuned in from? So at 4 months, what happens? Well, when a baby is 4 months old, a baby at about 16 weeks, a baby suddenly decides, I don't really want milk anymore. And they start cutting back what milk they're drinking. So if you're following my advice and my routines, you will be giving your 16-week-old baby, who is roughly 4 months old, solids. So if you're giving them solids, you can add the express breast milk or the infant formula into their solids and keep the milk intake up. So they're not going to suffer from sleep regression, which is caused by hunger. So some sleep regression is caused by hunger. Babies on the Save Our Sleep routine will not suffer this, because they will be getting the milk in their solids, because all babies at roughly 16 to 18 weeks cut back on their milk intake, regardless of whether they have or haven't started solids. So that is the first reason why the Save Our Sleep babies don't have the 4-month sleep regression. The next reason for the 4-month sleep regression is coldness. If your baby is put to bed with not enough bedding and not wrapped, at 4 months old, babies start to roll in their uptime. This is the most important time to be wrapping your baby in bed. If your baby is going to bed not wrapped and not warm enough at 4 months old, they will flip to their tummy. Roughly 4 months or a bit older, they will flip to their tummy. So it is really, really important. I recommend wrapping a baby. Let me just grab the wrap and show you. I recommend wrapping a baby in the double wrap, the Save Our Sleep or the Baby Origami double wrap. This is the Save Our Sleep branded one. I recommend wrapping your baby. So this comes around, it's a big triangle, and it wraps around this layer, and then there's another inner layer. You can find more info on this on the website. I recommend wrapping your baby over a safe sleep bag from 8 weeks and wrapping your baby until about 9 months. So if your baby is not warm enough, and wrapped and kept warm enough in bed, at about 4 months old, they will go through the cold sleep regression, where they're not wrapped, they flip to their tummy, and they wake up, they wake themselves up. It's really, really dangerous. Your baby needs to be wrapped at 4 months. The most important time to wrap them is when they start rolling in their uptime. In my first edition of the book, which came out many years ago, maybe 10 years ago or so, I said that you stopped wrapping a baby when they were able to roll. I soon realised I'd made a mistake and that I should be saying to stop wrapping a baby when they show signs of rolling wrapped. This is normally at 8 or 9 months. So if you're following my bedding guide and you're putting your baby in a long-sleeved bodysuit, a baby grow, let me show you, hold on. They've moved the shop round on me, I can't find anything. The girls have moved the shop round while I was on holidays and I can't find anything. Right, sorry, this is a long-sleeved bodysuit, but you want a short-sleeved bodysuit for a baby who's about 4 months, and then a baby grow, something like this, over the top of the short-sleeved bodysuit, then the sleeping bag, then the wrap and a wrap, and anything from 6 to 15 layers of blanket. So if you're doing that, then your baby will miss the coldness sleep regression at 4 months. Also, we talked about the hunger, you'll miss that. So, and also your baby will sleep in sleep cycles. Now, the next sleep regression happens at about 9 months. So why does it happen then? Well, because babies start sleeping in nighttime sleep cycles, anything from 6 months on, when they're about 8 kg. So you don't notice at first, because the first nighttime sleep cycle happens and they wake up about 5 o'clock in the morning. Or it might be 9 o'clock at night, and then another sleep cycle starts, but by 9 months they're waking at a couple of sleep cycles at night. So suddenly you're going, my baby's having 9 months sleep regression because they've started waking a couple of times again at night. This is because nighttime sleep cycles happens. By a year old, they could be waking every 2 hours, which could be 5 months at night. So if you're following the Save Our Sleep routines, you will miss the 9-month sleep regression again. So that is why people contact me and say, all of my friends in mum's group or here or there, or my sister or my aunt or my brother, their baby is having sleep regressions. Should I be worried about mine? No, you don't need to be worried about yours. If you're following the routine, my bedding guide, my feeding advice, you will miss the sleep regressions. So that is why. Now, someone's just asked a question. Hi Tizzie, if my bub wants more sleep after his immunisation needles, should I just let him or stick to the routine? If your baby's a bit sleepy after the immunisation's a bit tired, obviously you've got to watch for the signs the nurse has told you. There may be you've got to watch out for a medical reaction that might be causing your baby to be lethargic. If your baby is just extra sleepy, yes, you can let them have a little bit of extra sleep so long as they manage to get to the next feed time. But sometimes babies can be quite unsettled because going for the immunisations can get them out of routine. So it is okay to be out of routine a little bit. If your baby was upset, I wouldn't leave them in their cot crying or something because they might get very hot. I would get them up and hold them for their sleep time. Now, the other thing is, I wanted to show you that we now have a new mattress protector. We've made a mattress protector which is a smaller version for people with mini cribs or who want to use mattress protectors on their bassinets. So just to let you know, we now have a small mattress protector, a much smaller one, for people who wanted to use them. They found our mattress protector was too big for their prams or too big for their bassinets. I know we don't recommend bassinets, but people still use them. Or too big for their mini cribs. So to let you know that. And I've got a pretty bad cough, so I'm going to go because I'm going to have a coffee fit in a second. So thank you very much. We'll put some links up to the products, and I'll try and do another couple of live feeds now that the kids are back at school. Thank you very much for listening. Bye everybody.